Okay, so here is the final model setup, and I don't have I'm not in the camera right now, so I can show you some of this stuff, but I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes. But um, one thing that I want to do is sort of like separating my different planes of distance, so my foreground, middle ground, background, and everything. I think I'll probably need separate in a layer that I'm gonna see behind because of the camera projection. I want to have as a separate object, and you can see here that there's one object, two, and then I have this far background here, and then these things in the back here. But very simple, just four objects here. This green um, stone-like object here uh, is up there because of the I'm casting a shadow using that, and I'll show you that in a second. But that's up there because it's helping me block some of the light coming down into the platform down here. Um, but again, this is very simple. If we come out like this, it looks horrible, but it will work with the camera that we have set up already. And so um, with the let's turn the rendering here, and what's gonna happen is that once you set those different elements up, and this is with like the lighting and the textures and all that, and even if you don't pick the camera that you have set up already, maybe you can find another cool angle or like a close up or something just to create some sort of like different image that you maybe um, you might use for like an illustration or something. But let's go to the camera that we have set up already, just this one here. You can see that this is the final. Let me get rid of this, and I have some lights here. I want to have some sort of glowy magical thing here at the top. um, Maybe it's like a thing that you gotta collect, an orb or something. And then we have these stones with these lights, and I'm gonna have some like um, fireflies like flying around here and all that. And then probably our character is gonna be somewhere here glowing, or maybe like jumping here, and you can see the trail of light jump in here. So I'm still not sure. I can figure that out as I'm painted in Photoshop, but you will see here that um, it's gonna work for this shop, and I think I have enough information for me to just start um, painting. And I'm not worried about all the grass and the vegetation that I'm gonna have, because I'm gonna just put it on a layer and then use plain projections in here. So I just gotta figure that out in Photoshop, not here. And so the settings that I'm doing here, I'm rendering this in Eevee, of course. I'm doing like a 4K render. I'm doing OpenEXR multi-layer, and that will give me just one file with all my render passes that I set up here. I have the combine, which is my beauty pass, which is what you see here, my mist, normals, and all this. And if you want to check this out on the viewport, you can go down here, render pass. Right now it's on combine, but let's say I want to see how my mist is set up. So I already had it set up with the parameters, but this will give you an idea. And if you want something different, you can come here to the world settings, mist pass, and then you can play with the depth of this. But I already had that set that up just to create a nice gradient with space that I can use to push things back and forth. But you can check all the other passes here. So like, let's say volume scattering, which I'm gonna be using for sure. We have, oops, let's say for example ambient occlusion. You got all the ambient occlusion in there, some diffuse light. So I use all this in many different ways that I can go over in the next video, but this will give you an idea of how to set the render passes up. Just gotta mark them here, and then if you get um, a OpenEXR file, then you will get each render pass as a layer. All right, so I am gonna render these and set them up so I can show you how I'm gonna set it up in Photoshop. Okay, so now we are in Photoshop, and I actually end up doing 4 different renders, and this is one is what I call my just the main one, and then my level 2, which pretty much gets rid of the background, and then I have everything behind it. So the reason I do this is because if I'm gonna project these textures into the elements that are behind the background, and I'm gonna do a camera animation, I need that information on those elements so it looks right. And then I eliminate another level of distance, and then I have just like the main background where I'm gonna have the orb and all that stuff, and again this is gonna be another projection, and then just my full background behind it, which I can take these trees into separate layers and create some cool parallax effects as the camera moves and all that. But yeah, these are my 4 renders. The main thing for this now on, which is just gonna be painting, digging in here and just paint. But the main thing is just, you know, if you're gonna do a camera operation, you need to be like super well organized with how you set up where you paint and where you're gonna paint depending on the level of distance. So if I'm gonna paint stuff in the background here, and it goes over the edge like grass and stuff like that, I gotta make sure to have them on a separate layer, because I'm gonna export that as a PNG, put it in a plane with an alpha, and then put it at the spot where I'm gonna paint it, where I had it painted. So I just gotta be extremely extra careful with the layers that I'm gonna be using, and try to be as organized as possible. But you can see here that I have all the multiple render passes, my ambient occlusion, I got my bloom, my beauty pass, some diffuse color, diffuse light, background, some gloss, my mist, which I use for adding atmosphere, my normals, and sometimes I don't use my normals, but sometimes I want to pick like specific planes that are facing in a specific direction. So all these blue planes that are facing up, sometimes I want to select them easier and do something with it, whether enhance the light, add more lighting, or whatever it is that I want to do. But it depends. This is my shadow layer, and then my volume transform here with the color, which I was definitely gonna use. So yeah, so those are all the render passes. You don't have to use all of them. I think the main ones is just your beauty, of course, your mist, and depending on your lighting, your shadow is going to be very very important. But since in here I have a lot of lights, um, it's not as clear. So I mean, occlusion is pretty helpful, but yeah, those are the ones that I mostly use. I think they all have their use, but right now I'm pretty much gonna dive into here and start painting. And I'll show you some tricks that you can do for the render passes in the next chapter. But this is how I set up my renders. All right, so I'll see you guys on the next chapter where we're gonna start painting this image.